Hello, hello. How we doing tonight, guys? Hopefully all is well. Can you guys hear me all right? Hello, checking. Can you guys hear me all right? Yes, sir. Awesome. Awesome. Hopefully you all had a great weekend. Did some relaxing so that you can get back to the charts. I can tell you a lot of reviewing happened this weekend for me. I'm ready to get back at it after a hard week. Definitely excited to get back to the charts, right? I do apologize. This Outlook is hosted later than usual. Had a pretty busy Sunday here. Hopefully, it doesn't mess up you guys' schedule too much. Let's get straight into it. Let's talk charts right away. I'm going to bring up previous week high and low here. Net 12 month. Let's do previous week. Posted some quick updates. Candle ranges indicator had a few naming issues. Let's actually bring this one to the full name because it just looks better, I feel like. But this week is going to be a little bit of a weird one for me, but that's what I like with CPI weeks that don't have news before them. It's CPI is the true driver this week on Wednesday, and there's no news before it. Now, I don't have any more evals, so I'm back to trading my conservative ways. I will not be trading Monday nor Tuesday. As you guys may have known if you have watched my model video, it does not mean that I believe it is bad to trade those days. It is simply that I'm looking for the highest win rate possible, so the highest consistency, and that consistency is shown on days with high impact news. So if you don't care about consistency or you care less, right? I'm not saying your win rate will go down to 30%, right? But if you care less about it, feel free to trade those days, even with no news. But take into account that you should expect volatility at session opens and higher time frame candle opens. So if for our specific trading, right, we're looking at 9:30, we're looking at 10 a.m., we're looking at 1:30 p.m. and 2 p.m. Right, this is where you anticipate manipulation by volatility injection. Right, you expect a Judah swing, a fake move. So just as a quick reminder that it is okay to trade those days, I simply prefer not to maintain a higher win rate. Looking at the charts though, I'm a little bit in a weird place, right? Because we took out from last week, right? We had previous week high as our objective here. We did take out that level, but we failed. Well, we formed the swing high, but we failed to continue expansion lower to go target these lows. But we still left what we call a wickless candle, right? A candle where the low is the opening price. We just extended fully. This is not efficient price delivery. So this remains a large objective for me. So of course, early on in the week, I'm going to be expecting price to head there. But since we have, as I was saying, right, CPI on Wednesday and nothing beforehand, we could see some nice early on price action to go higher and then see a CPI retracement lower, right? Maintaining our monthly outlook outcomes, even though we know that our objectives are higher. We are looking for higher overall. Let's do something clear in here. I'll keep that on my chart like this. Relative equal highs and as well maintaining the same high. I'm gonna keep these levels on my chart, so I'm just gonna put them on here. We did take out this level. I like to draw relative equal highs like this. On a lower time frame, I'll just draw the top one and I'll have not this, sorry. I'll just have equal highs. But on a higher time frame, I like to maintain both levels, and this is the style I use in case you guys were wondering. But we could also see, right, early on in the week, once again, something I'm not trading, so I'm not looking to anticipate, but to react, a retracement to this opening price, and then not NFP, sorry, CPI could bring us to previous week's high, see a bullish week. It's really going to be a hard one, if I'm being honest, early on in the week, so I'm really going to adjust based on what we see in the week. I think it's actually a good opportunity to bring in some statistics because that's what I'm going to be framing my whole week on, right? Whenever I'm confused like this and honestly don't have much of an idea of what we're going to be doing early on in the week, I like to bring statistics. I feel like it makes my life easier in that sense. Let me just change my screen so you guys can see what I'm looking at. There we go. You should now be seeing my statistics. I like to refer to the ranges analysis. Always go for the weekly. I'm looking for the high and low of the week. And in this case, I'm going to be looking, what CPI do we have? I think it's just a normal CPI month over month. Also have year over year. You know what? We'll also include CPI year over year. We'll be very precise, and we'll also do our core CPI, which is month over month. So bringing in all the news that we have on Wednesday. Of course, I could bring PPI as well, all of the news from the rest of the week, but I want to focus on important news, which in this case, I believe, well, the most important driver this week will be CPI. Just looking at the extremes, very clear. We usually see a trending bearish week, which is a trending bullish week, sorry. So the low formed early on in the week, high formed trending right up until Friday with a 35% and 17% on Thursday. So let's just filter even more. Let's look at bullish weeks. We can see very clearly we see a trending week. What do I mean by trending? Is the low gets formed or early, and then we expand right up until the end of the week, in this case Friday, and we see about a quarter of the time Thursday forming the high of the week, which means that Friday is a retracement lower. So definitely some nice frameworks here. It's the basic, right? We always expect a trending week. If we are to see a bearish week, we could see the high formed about almost equal percentages. Well, I mean 15% different on Monday and Tuesday. So in a case like this, I could very easily see Tuesday take out the previous week high we were just looking at, and then expand right up until Thursday once again, with a high probability 50% of the time of being Friday, but a nice quarter of the time to be Thursday, and Friday being a retracement. Raids, very straightforward stuff. I'm going to remove the direction filtering. 63% chance of reaching for our previous week high, so definitely going to be a nice objective early on in the week, right? 63%. Half of the time that is done on Monday, and then you have almost 18% here of the time on Tuesday. Sometimes comes late in the week. I really like using news filtering when looking at a weekly perspective, and more importantly, a daily perspective. So those are the statistics I'll be using. Sorry about that, guys. So those are the statistics I'll be using for the week. Definitely some very simple frameworks, but that's what I love about this data. It is super simple, super easy to understand, but definitely very accurate and very useful for weeks like these where I'm a little bit more confused on the early on direction. So clearly, if we go right away for a high, I'm going to expect some bearish retracements, perhaps even a total weekly framework from previous week high to previous week low. But if we go straight down, well, we expect a trending week. So we go straight down, form the low of the week, and then we can expand and look for some sort of Friday retracements. So definitely some simpler frameworks in that sense, but hopefully everything was clear to understand for you guys. Of course, backed by statistics. I mean, what can really compare, right? Do you guys have any questions in relation to that? I know I go over this data, these statistics very quickly because it's something very well, that I use every single week. So for me, it is very clear, very easy to understand since I use it so much. But maybe for some of you guys, you'd like some clarifications, perhaps of how do I transfer those statistics into a trade idea. We have some times in these weekly outlooks now, right? We do these quick because that's how simple I go. Question for Judah Swing. Are they only for news days or any days? I always anticipate some kind of opposite movement at session opens, right? And important higher time frame candle opens. As I talked about in the beginning of this outlook, we're looking at the start of the New York session, the start of our 4-hour candles during our regular trading hours. These are things that I look for a Judah swing. So a fake move in the opposite direction of my target. And that is what creates my framework. Right? If we're talking about breaker blocks, I'll just go on a lower time frame and find a breaker block here, just so I can show you. All right, so for example, right here we have a bearish breaker right up here, and I would expect this manipulation to be at a session open, and these are what forms the highest probability frameworks, right? Of course, now I'm looking at a random time. Well, actually, no, I'm not. I'm not looking at a random time. We have that session open, we have the manipulation higher session open, sorry. We have the higher time frame candle open. In this case, it is the PM candle open, right? So the 4-hour PM candle. And we see right here, we have a very nice manipulation. Then we form a breaker and we have a nice retracement lower. I mean, I'm looking at this random framework on the 5-minute, right? But we reached our first discount inefficiency quite easily. I actually think we reviewed that exact trade in the Friday PA review. But yes, always anticipate manipulation, a Judas swing, time-based manipulation, right? At session opens and at higher time frame candle opens. This is basically how I trade days with no news. You just anticipate the movement from the news at those specific times. When trading days that have no impact news, do you rely more heavily on session frameworks? The same as with news, Nico. So definitely always look for session frameworks. This is my highest probability frameworks, right? We're talking about London. We're talking about long trades. Definitely some very nice frameworks there, whether it's on a news day or not, right? No news days, I just expect manipulation at different times, where usually I would expect it at the news times. I don't have right stats yet, and we'll be looking at the charts during the start of the week. I would definitely recommend just going about it as we always do, but the only difference is that you're expecting manipulation at different times rather than at the news times. Didn't know it was for every session open. Thanks, Ollie. My pleasure, my pleasure. The only difference is that if you guys are London traders, expect said manipulation more towards 3 a.m. than towards 2 a.m. So see, we're looking at something here. For example, 2 a.m. didn't do much, but we go here at 3 a.m. and you see a very nice Judas swing that would have left for some short opportunities. So just for my London traders out there, I would look more towards 3 a.m., even though I use a session as 2 to 5 a.m. It's the only specific there. The other ones are really the regular session opens that I use. My pleasure, Nico. We have any final questions before we call it a night here? Not seeing anyone typing, so I'm guessing it was all clear. So good luck trading this week, guys. I'm definitely excited to be going back into this trading week after a little bit of a rougher week for myself. So you guys have a great week. Good luck trading, and we'll have PA reviews from Wednesday to Friday this week. So definitely, well, see you guys then, actually. Yes, sir. You guys have a great night. Talk soon. Bye, guys.